Look. Eh, मैं शुरू I have to. हाँ उसे Hey guys, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So as we are waiting for people to come, I'm just gonna take 10 minutes to talk about some of the things that we have planned in 2026. Um, and then we're gonna go into the miracle, the story. So if so, this is something new that we're doing this time. We're sharing our vision on the screen as well. So hopefully next time when children are presenting their research, we would like them to think about visuals as well, so that they can share the message more visually. So, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So everyone, as you know, we're gonna, those of you who know the start of the Zainab, I just want to recap of the year. It's always good to think about the future, New Year's resolution, and what we want to achieve in the next year. At the same time, in order to understand where we want to go, we need to understand from where we are coming from. So 12 years ago, Dr. Hatim laid the foundation of Juma at Zainabia. And Nawab Agha helped him throughout. May Allah elevate his status in Jannah. If it wasn't for Nawab Agha, we would not have gotten the opportunity, and Dr. Hatim's vision of grooming the future generation would not have come about. Because as we know, in different centers, there is a lot of pushback on allowing youngsters to actually speak, for the youth to come forward. There's a lot of difficulties that are faced by the youth over here in general to actually be able to come to the podium and speak. But that is something that was started, and then 2 years ago, starts from a backyard where few people gathered for 4 Fridays, and we had nothing. Only a hope, only a dream that we're going to do something amazing. If we have the opportunity, we will continue the message going. And I say that oftentimes just to remind myself, and since Dr. Hatim is here, Maulana is here, I will remind myself and all of you the words that Dr. Hatim told me when the first Jummah was about to happen in our backyard, that do not be disappointed if people do not show up. Our goal is to keep continuing the message. As one Imam left, the other Imam continued. When the Prophet left, Imam Ali continued. It doesn't matter whether we have a place, or we're in the ground, or we are online, the message has to continue. And that laid the foundation of what the Rizana would be. It was supposed to be a dream. It was a dream which was laid in the context that we want to empower the youth. We want to talk about the truth. We want to share what actually happened with Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. We do not want to be politically correct. We want to tell what happened from the Masa'ib of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, and also from the Fazail of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. Do not think, especially listen to the story, that these things are not possible. The Ahl Bayt salam are unique. Anything is possible in that realm. And something that I just recently was talking to Dr. Hatim, there's a narration from the sixth Imam which says, and this is an answer for everyone who says that Ahl Bayt salam cannot accomplish this or they cannot bring death to life, all those things, especially for the youth. Imam alayhi salam, the sixth Imam says, from whose nazar we're going to do, that do not think of us as the Lord. We are not God, except for that we are, you can call us anything. Our merits are beyond your comprehension. And if you do not understand our merits, then leave those to us, turn them back to us. So from those humble beginnings to having an auditorium and the ability to speak, and allowing the ability for the children to speak, it's amazing blessing from Allah. We don't take this granted, because this is truly a blessing from Allah. And Allah says in the Quran, if you're then Allah will keep giving His bounties. So all of us should make sure, as there is in a family, that we attribute all our success to Allah and Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. It's nothing of our doing. It's, even though I am humbled when some people say my name, but that is not, it's not my doing or Maryam's doing or Zanbai's doing or anyone else's doing. It is a collective effort blessed by Allah and Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. So with that being said, in 2025, I won't go into a lot of details about like the vision, because you might have heard me in different occasions. But in 2025, we laid out that we're going to focus on 3 areas, because one is the dream that we want to accomplish, to share the message of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. But how do we accomplish that dream? It is through 3 things, at least in 2025. One was focusing on the community. The second one was the preparation for the Imam of our time. The third one is knowledge beyond the 4 walls. So we know that typically what happens is that knowledge that we share, it stays within the 4 walls of the Imam Barga. Typically what people have said, that majalis are an Indo-Pak community fraternity gathering where people come, gather, and then they leave, and most of the knowledge is lost. So we wanted to make sure that that doesn't happen. So from a community development perspective, we have collectively identified people who are being groomed to be future leaders. These people, and you have seen many of them actually coming forward and presenting, doing research on different occasions, because it takes time, it takes effort from their professional lives. And that is a commitment that they are doing for the cause of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. So this commitment is what is appreciated by Allah. And if it wasn't for volunteers, the vision of the Zainab would have died the first day. If we were dependent on paying someone, we would not have had money to actually continue. There are very few scholars like Maulana Wasim who came for the first majlis at the Zainab and said, I am with you and will not charge anything. There are very few people. When you are in the organization and stuff, there are people who say, I want this much, I want this much. So it is important for us to build the foundation of the community of leaders who continue this message. Whether I am gone, whether Dr. Hatim, whether Waleed, there is a next generation followed by the next generation of these youth who came and presented. They need to be prepared for the time when they are needed. So the second thing that we did was we established this volunteer ecosystem, which was very unique. Like, I know there was a lot of questioning. There were a lot of people who were saying, do not give the responsibilities to youth. But the youth have taken, especially when I say youth, I'm not talking about like in 20s. I'm talking about children who are from 7 years all the way to 20 years. This emerging youth age group, this has taken the responsibility of doing things and organizing, and as well as like cleaning up and doing all of those things. So that was an amazing thing, and ultimately it resulted in more than 150 programs in last year, which is amazing for a new center which doesn't have resources, which doesn't have its own thing. Because someone asked me, why don't you focus on gathering funds and fundraising to buy a place? And the response that we have, Dr. Hatim has, and everyone that has been with us, is when Allah wants, there will be a place which will be identified for us. For now, the goal is to keep going one day at a time, but do not relax in this journey. And that will be my third point when we think about 2026. The second part was preparation for the Imam. Every single lecture in the majalis, every single thing that we have done, we have focused, our focus has been on the Imam of our time. Whether it is the Dua Faraj or Dua Ziyarat Ashura, or instructing the scholars to actually talk about this topic, to prepare for that topic, for that time, because we don't know when the announcement will come. We don't know how situations have been evolving, and those who have been coming to the Zainab, they know how we have been talking about the situation, and the importance of community is really connected to that. So this is something that I mentioned in my last conversation speech on Friday. I will repeat this, that if the announcement comes, it will be wajib on all the males to leave for the Imam. So then what happens to the family? What happens to the children? What happens to the women? So it is imperative, and this is something that my wife gave the idea, so I will give her the credit, that the ladies have to have this community feeling. They have to build this feeling so that one family could start living with another family. They're not depending on each other. The time might be difficult. The children know that the father has gone, but there is extended family available. Otherwise, it will be difficult for family and the parents to leave, or the father to leave if the time comes. No one knows when that happens, but we have to prepare as if we can die tomorrow. That is the preparation that we need to do, and that's why community building is really important. The third point is regarding how we want to share the knowledge beyond four walls. I mean, one option is we can go knock the door and say, hey, this is like Jehovah's Witnesses, like this is the Quran, this is Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and people will just knock off, like they might do whatever they want to do with us, right, at that point. But there are other options in the world of technology, in the world of the new innovations that are coming out. We have a responsibility to leverage those innovations for the betterment of the message of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So that's the focus. That will be the focus. In addition to the 2025 focus areas, in 2026, we want to take that to the next level. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So, for example, we started with this lecture platform. You have seen this lecture platform. Many of the scholars have seen it. They've seen the output. But in the beginning, creating the platform in itself was a big ordeal. Then automating it was a huge thing, because without automation, you take everything and you try to process, it takes forever. Now we have automated that to the point that yesterday we identified 53 lectures of Al Center automatically, and we processed them, which included one of the lectures for Maulana Wasim Abbas that we did in the early part of last year. How do I know that? Because I saw all of those 52 lectures last night, and I saw the start and end point. The problem is there are a lot of technological issues that we are addressing. So think about the Rizana is not only a place where we come to hear the majalis, but there is a lot of innovation happening in the back. And every single donation that you've given, every single thing that you've helped the Rizana with, it helps all of these things. So when that happens, you get a lot of opportunity. You create shorts, you create summaries, you create notes, you create so many things, which then goes to the broader world. Because let's be honest, if someone, I'll give you an example, a scholar who's Arabic speaking, he has an amama, he's speaking English, really important information. But if YouTube cannot convert his speech, his English speech, into English captions, you know it will be very difficult for an average American or Westerner to understand understand the accent. And we have seen English lectures being translated or captions being Arabic. So like literally the person is speaking in English and the captions that are coming on are Arabic, as if the computer is saying that the person is speaking Arabic. How would we think that their message will go across into the world, even if it is on YouTube? And this is an interesting dynamic that we are facing. And I want to share with this family because you need to understand what the mentality is. You see all of this value because I would say Dr. Hatim and Maulana Wasim were few of the first people that we shared this and they appreciated. And there are other centers who are led by scholars they have appreciated. But there are centers, without taking names, they charge 3,000, 4,000 for a program, including the food, the scholar, the rent, all of those things. This entire lecture, which they've spent $4,000, because their argument is everything is on YouTube. Why do we need to process this further? This is the type of mentality that we have, we need to address. And how do we address that is the strategic goal for next year, because it's hard to convince people like, why do you need this, let alone the platform? We're giving the platform for free. It's a gift from Zainab. No, even to bear the processing charge, why do we have to do that while they're willing to spend $4,000 on a? So with that being said, we need also one other dynamic I want to highlight is the world is changing very fast. 2 years ago, when I gave speeches about Imam Ali salam, and the world was starting in the direction of I thought and I shared that the world that years will, or 5 to 10 years, will not be the same. The job market is starting graduates, it's very difficult. There aren't a lot of jobs because AI is taking over a lot of jobs. So how do we think about that aspect as well? And what does that mean in order for us to share the message and also build something which is very unique? So this is what I want to share. Like, the vision, at least over the last month, has exploded. It is no longer, and this is all blessings of the Zainab. Obviously, it is not possible without the help of the community, but it is, at least in the minds of few people, it has exploded. What does that mean? It means that we started a small platform to just document the Ramadan lectures, but then we went into this, okay, what if we are able to create something based on not only lectures but a community hub? Once we do the community hub, what if children, we can create some courses which replace Kumon or other things, so that instead of paying 175 $350, the children can actually leverage AI and do their own work in-house, leveraging what are the best practices outside. Then you have the ability of converting into courses. You have the ability of doing other things with the lectures that you have in order to actually promote the message. And then what about the ability of converting the message of people like Imam Khomeini, his lectures, his message, Iqbal, who is read by Sayyid Khamenei, and the vision that those have, and converting them into something, an innovation, a foundation which is not given in school for the students, for the youngsters. It will be a very different dynamic. They will be able to convert this into knowledge that they are not even able to comprehend today. And ultimately, this is just the start. What if what we did today in terms of the research presentations, that could become something like a Shark Tank, where students come and present their concepts, and they are funded and say like, hey, you have this $1,000, you build your product, and then you start occupying the community from within. You are basically enabling the community. So that is the ultimate, that is how things have evolved. I don't know how much of this will be completed, but one thing that I would like to conclude with is our goal is to make sure that we are working in that direction. Results come from Allah. So every time share the message, every time you communicate, every like, every share, every word of mouth, every time you encourage your children, every time you are part of this message, you strengthen the vision of Dar Zainab. And Dar Zainab's vision is not about a person, it's not about few people, it is about a family which strengthens the vision, not about one big donor trying to control all of the activities. So, with that, the reason I shared all of this because we are going to start the Nazar, and Nazar significance of the Nazar is whenever you make a dua, the duas are accepted. So just make sure that you also remember the Zainab in your duas as well as your own household and the imams, um, and the shrines of the imams and the difficulties that we're facing and the imam of our time. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. With that, I would request Brother Shabi to recite the mujiza of Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So, before I read the story, just echoing a little bit about what Brother Farhan said, we do this nazar. A lot of us, we read the story in the morning during Fajr time before we do the nazar. And as especially for the youth, as you listen to the story, you think about the story with the power of dua, how in the story people made duas uh, using our imams and using them as a facilitation, and all their duas got accepted. So as you listen to the stories, think about your duas and asking the imam about your duas, all your hajat, and inshallah they will be accepted. So one more salawat, please. The miracle of Imam Jafar Sadiq. In a certain city, there lived a woodcutter who was extremely poor and destitute. Every day he would go to the forest, cut wood, and sell it barely to feed himself and his family. They lived in grinding poverty. One day, overwhelmed by his hardship, he said to his wife, I go out every day to earn a living. Who knows if Allah will ever have mercy on us and end our sufferings? So the woodcutter set out in search of livelihood, traveling from city to city. But fate did not favor him. No one offered him any help or support. All the while, his heart yearned. If only I had some money. If only I could send something back to my wife and children in the city so they could survive. But in all those years of wandering, he found nothing to send home. 12 long years passed, and his state of worry and hardship continued. Meanwhile, the woodcutter's wife, after the husband's departure, remained consumed with anxiety, wondering how she could provide for her family. Days turned into years, and she thought to herself that her household would collapse. But then one day she found work as a sweeper in the Prime Minister's palace. This way she managed to feed herself and her children. One day, while she was sweeping the minister's palace, she noticed a scholar, a mullah, sitting there. It was the blessed gathering of Imam Jafar Sadiq, peace be upon him. Salawat. He had come with his companions to visit the minister's home. The Imam turned to his companion and said, What is today's date? One of the companions replied, O Mullah, today is the night of 22nd Rajab. The Imam then spoke in his blessed tongue of Arabic and said, Whoever is troubled by any difficulty should, according to this tradition, make 22 puris, place them in a basket, offer them as nazar in our name. Then, after completion of the Fajr prayers, they should give these away, beseech Allah the Almighty through our intercession for their need. At that very moment, the woodcutter's wife heard those words and immediately uh, heard this word of the Imam. Immediately, with sincere faith, she made the intention to fulfill this promise. After completing the Fajr prayers on 22nd Rajab, she carried out the Imam's instruction exactly as prescribed. Now let us see what happened of the woodcutter during those years. On that very 22nd of Rajab, at the time of Fajr, the woodcutter was near Imam's blessed presence as well, though in a distant land. He had climbed a tree to cut wood, and as he swung his axe, the blade slipped from his hand and fell to the ground. When he climbed down to retrieve it, he noticed the ground where it fell had been disturbed. He began to dig and discovered an ancient buried treasure. He realized this was a hidden fortune buried a long, long time ago. He concealed the treasure carefully and then gradually began to extract it. He prepared for his journey home with all the wealth he found. Taking the entire treasure, he set off towards his homeland. He bought a magnificent house for his family to live in and began to spend his day peacefully with his wife and children. One day, he told his wife the story of how he found the treasure. When he mentioned the exact date, the time, she realized it was the same day and the same moment she made that promise. When she told her husband about the nazar of Imam Jafar Sadiq, he too embraced this faith with a sincere heart. Salawat. One day, the prime minister's wife was standing on the roof of her palace eating watermelon when she noticed a grand mansion in the distance. She asked the servant, "Whose house is that?" The servant replied, "That is the house of the woodcutter's wife, the one that used to work as a sweeper here." The minister's wife summoned the woodcutter's wife and inquired about her circumstance in detail. The woman explained everything and what had happened, but the minister's wife did not believe her. However, a thought crept into her heart. Her husband must have stolen something from me, which is how he became so wealthy. The suspicion planted a corrupt thought in the minister's wife's mind. She wanted to bring the misfortune upon the prime minister. Among the ministers at the court, there was one who was an enemy of the prime minister. He seized the opportunity and went to the king. He said to the king, "Your Majesty, please summon the prime minister and demand an accounting from him." The king called the prime minister and demanded he present his accounts. The prime minister could not give a satisfactory answer. The king became so furious and ordered all the prime minister's wealth and all the property to be confiscated. He and his wife were expelled from the palace. The two of them left hungry and thirsty. As they walked back, dejected and broken, they happened to see some watermelon for sale by the roadside. The prime minister asked his wife for some money so they could buy the watermelon. By coincidence, she had a few coins left. They bought the watermelon and put it in a handkerchief and found a place to sit and rest. As fate would have it, on that very day, the king's prince had gone hunting and had not returned by nightfall. The king grew anxious and consulted his ministers. The entire night passed, and the same one who had harbored the enmity towards the prime minister said to the king, "It seems to me that the prime minister has had the prince killed out of revenge and has hidden the body somewhere." The king, hearing this, ordered the immediate arrest of the prime minister. Soldiers were dispatched and soon found the prime minister and his wife. At that moment, prime minister had just cut into the watermelon, his handkerchief was lying beside him, and he was arrested in that very state. When the king saw the handkerchief stained with red color, which was merely just watermelon juice, he thought it was blood. He assumed this was the evidence of his son's murder. Without further inquiry, the king concluded the prime minister had killed the prince. Both the prime minister and his wife were thrown into the dungeon. From his cell, the prime minister asked his wife, "How did this calamity befall us? Who could have done this, and why are we being punished this way?" The wife then told him the story of the woodcutter and his wife of the nazar of Imam Sadiq. She said, "I did not believe in this nazar, nor did I have faith in Imam Jafar Sadiq's command." The prime minister said to his wife, This is where we went wrong. We did not believe in the Imam. So the two of them spent the entire night weeping in prayer, seeking for forgiveness from Allah for their sins. With sincere hearts, they made the intention to fulfill the vow, the promise of the Nazar. Allah, the Lord of all worlds, accepted their prayers. The next morning, the prince returned safely from his hunting trip, presented himself before the king. The king asked his son, Son, where were you all this time? The prince replied, Your Majesty, I stayed in the royal garden because the hunting took longer than expected. The king then gave permission for the prince to enter the palace. He summoned the prime minister and his wife and called for the handkerchief to be brought. The handkerchief was examined and it was clearly stained with watermelon, not blood. The king was deeply ashamed. He asked the prime minister, What is the meaning of all this? The prime minister then told the entire story, exactly as the wife had told him, about the woodcutter and his wife. The king summoned the woodcutter and his wife and asked directly about what had happened. They confirmed the details and all the circumstances. Hearing all this, the king himself embraced the faith with sincere heart. He reinstated the prime minister to his former position and expelled the treacherous lying minister who had caused all this trouble and punishing him appropriately. Salawat. Yali. So, with this story, let's just raise our hands and may Allah grant all our wishes, all our prayers through the intercession of our Imams and through the intercession of Imam Jafar Sadiq with this Nazar, with this Kunda Niyas, that all our wishes come true, all the calamities that are happening in this life, in this world, they come to become easy for people and all your hajats come true. Thank you. Salawat.
سر المستودع فيها بعدد ما أحاط به علمك. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. اللهم صل على فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها وسر المستودع فيها بعدد ما أحاط به علمك. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. खुदाया इस नज़र को दर ज़ैनब की इंतज़ामिया और मोमिन मोमिनात और डोनर्स और वॉल्टियर्स और स्पॉन्सर सब की तरफ से कबूल और मंजूर फरमा। इस नज़र को खाने चखने वालों को सेहत और सलामती अता फरमा। इस नज़र के सदक़े में खुदा सबकी ज़िंदगी में आसानी अता फरमा, सबकी ज़िंदगी में बरकतें अता फरमा, बीमारों को शिफाया फरमा, मकरूज़ मोमिनीन के कर्ज अता फरमा। खुदा इस नज़र को स्पॉन्सर करने वालों को माल रिज़्क़ व वसअत अता फरमा। ये सिलसिला दस्तरखान ताकि हमें क़यामत जारी सारी फरमा। दर ज़ैनब की रौनकों में इजाफा फरमा। ये वॉलंटियर शिरकत कुनंदगान खिदमत गुजारान सबको दुनिया और आखिरत की खैर अता फरमा। अल्लाहुम्मा तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंता समीउन अलीम बिजाए मुहम्मदिन व आलिहि तय्यबीन ताहिरीन अल मासूमीन। खुदा तुझे अपनी इज्जत अज़मत का वास्ता इस नज़र को जहाद मासूमीन की खिदमत में, इमाम जाफ़र सादिक़ अलैहिस्सलाम की खिदमत में और ज़माने के इमाम की खिदमत में पेश करते हैं। खुदाया इस नज़र को कबूल फरमा कर सबको उसका सवाब मरहमत फरमा, बरकतें अता फरमा। इमाम ज़मान अज्जलल्लाहु ताला फ़रज शरीफ के ज़ुहूर पुरनूर में ताजील फरमा। हम सबको इमाम के आवान व अंसार में करार दे। और इस वक्त जो दुनिया के हालात है खुदाया, इन हालात में मुसलमानों को, मिल्लत जाफरिया, मिल्लत तशय्यो को, अहले बैत के चाहने वालों को फतह नुसरत अता फरमा और जुल्म व बर्बरियत का खात्मा फरमा। जालिमों को करार वाकई सज़ा अता फरमा और दुनिया को अदल इंसाफ से भरने के लिए हमारे ज़माने के इमाम के ज़ुहूर में ताजील फरमा। अल्लाहुम्मा तक़ब्बल मिन्ना इन्नका अंता समीउन अलीम बिजाए मुहम्मदिन व आलिहि तय्यबीन ताहिरीन अल मासूमीन।
वो ब्लू ब्लू है ना, तो उसमें डबल डबल खीरे हैं, एक खीर और एक चाट इधर पास कर दो।
अच्छा यहाँ पे
पीछे
आज
से करना है।
आज ओपन करो आई मौलाना
क्या करना है? खोल दे खाना, हो गया सारा खोल दे।